Here comes an FD driver, and he has one line of conversation.
I'm gonna tell you how a rotary engine works.
Oh, you say you already know how they work?
Well, let me tell you how a Wankel works.
Oh, you already know about him too?
I'm gonna tell you how sequential turbos work.
Oh, you already know about them too?
I'm gonna tell you anyway. I'm gonna tell you anyway. I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Listen to that engine roar. Wankel engine induction force is rather odd when in this spot. No, no, no.
Triangles, 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 triangles. You never had me. You never had me. There goes in one turbo and comes bigger, and there goes in another turbo is bigger, and the other turbo comes out, it comes out. Then it goes round, 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 round. Piss spin. Leading edge spark plugs and trailing edge spark plugs and leading edge. Lift up my ball sack. And then the interior of the car gets unbearably hot. My vagina is now the cursed earth.
Thanks, RX-7 FD.
This is a 1993 Mazda RX-7 FD. Twin rotor, twin turbo. This is the car for the man who flexes while driving. Oh, I'm at a stoplight. I'm in my RX-7. Time to flex that forearm and look at you over my bicep. Oh, you want some of this? My dick is full of cheese.
And this is the first car we've gotten in which we were able to get a dyno reading. Remember the Sloppy Mechanics video where they blew up the Buick Century on the dyno using nitrous? Earlier that day, this RX-7 went up on the dyno and made 290 to the wheels. Which makes it reasonable that this engine, on a good day, is making 300 horsepower to the crank, which is 59 horsepower above what this car was rated for in 1993, which is 261 horsepower. Anyway, we need to talk about the Mazda RX-7. This has been a long time coming. This is the FD, this is the final generation of the RX-7, and this is the crowning— no, wait, it's not the final, isn't it? I keep forgetting about that RX-8. Right? RX-8. The RX-8 was the denouement of the series. It was the most user-friendly, but the final version of the RX series wasn't the fastest. This was. This is the second to last. Out of all the Wankels that exist out into the world, this was the best design, because it brought all the potential of rotary engines to a climax. Putting forced induction into a Wankel engine is very odd, because you really can't think about these engines as four-strokes. They're more like all-strokes, right? Because there's always a fire burn. There is no moment in a rotary engine where it gets to cool off. Part of it is always hot. If you had to give me one experience to take away from driving an FD, it's the heat. I've never felt anything like this. The heat that's pouring off the transmission tunnel and the stuff that's trying to pound its way through the firewall. There's no exhaust stroke where the entire cylinder, which isn't a cylinder, it's more of a combustion unit, gets to cool off. So most of the changes that the owner of this RX-7 FD had to do have nothing to do with performance and everything to do with life support. A fan controller keeps the blade spinning for no less than 10 minutes after the ignition is out. The owner is so meticulous about this car that even when he parks it, it's become muscle memory. He gets out of the car, and before he's out all the way, he pops the hood, walks around, lifts it up to let extra heat out. It's just a thing he does now. The RX-7 FDs were so finicky. You buy one of these cars if your Evo 9 is too reliable for you. Look at this engine bay. There's extra heat shielding, and then more heat shielding, and then there's this gold look and stuff. You know, I'm gonna let the owner talk about it. Here, go ahead.
I had the car for about 5 years, kept it stock for about 4. Then I decided to pour money into it. This airbox is from M2 Performance. I was able to actually clean up some of the vacuum lines. Speed 1 did this for me. They were shot down in Huntsville. They installed this custom solenoid rack, so it actually replaces the stock solenoid rack. The stock solenoid rack is pictured in this rat's nest diagram there of 42 unique vacuum hoses. So it's cut that down significantly. Was able to take out some of the emissions-related airflow pieces and components that direct air to your catalytic converter. Everything else past the twin turbos, it does have the stock twin sequential turbos, is aftermarket in terms of the intake track. So that's one of the sequential turbos. The other one is kind of back under this pipe. They feed in, one turbo gets fed by this pipe, the other one by the one right underneath that. So then they both get collected after getting the boost and come out this pipe through the intercooler. The intercooler is ducted. The duct comes out and feeds the front bumper as well. And then that goes into the intake manifold, upper intake manifold. The air temperature sensor is in the upper intake manifold. I changed out the primary injectors. They are a little bit heavier, 850cc instead of the stock 550cc. The fuel pump is also from a twin turbo Supra. They drop right in. I also had the fuel pump directly wired to the factory harness, because that's something they recommend a lot, so you don't get any fuel electric voltage drop on the fuel pump, which would cause to lean out, and then you'd blow some stuff up. Besides that, intake, most of the belt pulleys have been changed, the belts have been changed over, there's a catch can, I've seen a lot of oil coming into the intake. One nifty part here is this guy's actually a cross tower, but it also right here has a brace for the master cylinder built into it. Excuse me, that's the brake.
Brake master.
Yeah, brake master built into it. So when you brake in the 7, it actually, that unit, you can see it visibly move, especially on the hard braking. So that's just something a little aftermarket. This HKS ignition amplifier, basically. So.
And then a pizza delivery bag is cut open and smeared with the dark soul of a bicyclist who intentionally hugs the left side of the lane with his balls all smeared with Burt's Bees and meatball subgrease. An FD lives its life on more life support than a dinner conversation the day after your mom found your spanker chief in a copy of The Reeves Tale, the graphic novel.
Bone up on your Chaucer!
I call that stuff great literature. It's really nothing but rough sex. The FD is the sperm that fertilizes the egg of bro culture. It's the quarterback who goes to his rival school's prom.
The hell, man, he's taking our women. He doesn't even go here.
Everybody who reviews one of these cars talks about how gutless they are at low RPM. They don't do it enough justice. It sounds like the car is broken if you try to short shift this thing. Ideal time to shift? 5,000 RPM. 5. You shift this thing at 2,000 RPM, feels like you're driving a mail truck. An FD makes 300 horsepower and 4 torques. But when you get up into that 7,000 RPM sweet spot, when the first turbo and second turbo are working together, you're now thinking like a motorcycle. It's best.
Holy wow! This is like a motorcycle. This is like a 600, or no more, like a 1,000 a little bit, and that there is no drop off at the top. The top is where everything is.
Yes, exactly. 2. Yes, sir.
Holy moly!
You can't really think in stroke because there is no stroke. Can't really think in bore because that doesn't make sense either. The dark side of the FD are people who put LS engines into these things. And I agree with Farah. You put a Chevy V8 into an RX-7 so the car works. And he's right. Although, what does that leave you with? A slightly smaller Corvette C5. If you keep the rotary engine in here and keep it running correctly, the RX-7 becomes a car that happens when you mix whey protein into all the things. An RX-7 without a rotary engine is like watching reality TV and hoping to see a titty. It's inherently restrictive. It sacrifices the experience in favor of functionality. When you feel these sequential turbos kicking in, it's like pausing life as the roller coaster just begins to crest the first hill. Imagine being able to call up that feeling of uncertainty at any moment. Once this car has you in its grasp, it's hard to get out from that spell. The more you struggle, the more you bro out. Your hair becomes spiked with Axe brand douche gel, and you bathe in Old Spice when you forget to take a shower. And you watch To Catch a Contractor because you like seeing people get yelled at. And you don't wear condoms because you invented a latex allergy. The RX-7 is an inescapable signifier of dudism. Once you're in, you're in. You can struggle, but there's no escape. Mazda RX-7 FD, the Chinese finger trap of cars. Of course, this is a 1993 car, and 1993 is becoming a reflection of 2015 in a lot of ways. You have a Bush and a Clinton running for president, a new Jurassic Park movie in theaters, and the TV show Coach is apparently coming back even though nobody was asking for it. Oh, and the X-Files too. They debuted it in 93. And they're getting another crack at it in 2016 because of reasons. But then again, the Mazda RX-7 is permanently stuck in the 90s. And this car could have only existed in the 90s. That beginning burst of the dot-com boom. The tick, tick, tick of the roller coaster hiking its way up the Dow Jones. NASDAQ getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So why not try to make a sequential twin-turbo rotary engine? Why not? It's the 90s. I got type in class, but I'm really just going to play Jezball the entire time. This FD is from the era when, if the classroom computer broke, the teacher had to get you to fix it because there was no IT department at your school. And every single third grader knew more about computers than the principal did. You buy an FD for the same reason you build a ship in a bottle, or daily a Dodge Viper, or run Linux on every single one of your home computers without a backup OS, or shoot with a manual lens when an autofocus would do just fine, or retain points ignition on an old classic car, or make pasta by hand. You do it because it's hard, because it's a challenge. Owning an RX-7 FD is a wedding band for car enthusiasts. It's a symbol of your devotion, because this is a car that has a community all its own, a cult following that doesn't seek approval from other automotive communities. And that's worthy of respect. You could put an LS in here, and it would be good, but it wouldn't be the same. The RX-7 boasted, again when it was new, 261 horsepower from the 13B REW rotary engine, which stood as the last bastion for all the rotaries, and 2 sequential turbochargers and near 50-50 weight distribution. Not only is it capable, it's loaded loaded with personality, like rings on a coffee table. Or the antisocial goth girl who's beautiful on the inside. Sure, her poetry is horrible. And yeah, you'll get ragged on for dating her. But let's be honest, the goth girl is gonna do you right. Because the blonde cheerleader doesn't think she has to do anything beyond being the hot cheerleader. But the goth girl, she'll work for that ass. Because she has something to prove. And at the end of the day, that's who you'll choose every single time. Because she can do you in the way you need to be done. Just like an RX-7. And when the rest of your friends wake the hell up, you'll be the one who gets to say you wised up first.
This is the car for the men who are flexing while they're driving the road, and their dick's full of cheese. Buy this RX, it's the second to last generation. It's hot, and I don't mean a tease. Hey bro, I watch reality TV, watching and hoping that us